Hello, everybody. It's Michelle Hill with Slingshot Designs. Today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite one of my favorite lean tools, and it's for organizing. I think any company who begins a lean journey, it's probably the first tool that they implement is called 5S, and it lays out the steps for organizing a mess, any kind of mess. So outside of my native industry of manufacturing, I apply this into my own life on a regular basis. And no matter what the mess is, no matter what the complexity is, applying 5S methodology to it is going to help improve your results. It's going to structure the process that you go about as you kind of come across a daunting task. So for anyone, I guess I'll walk through the example using a really cluttered room. So we'll kind of start with a bit of a story here. Imagine that you just come home from work to find that there was a natural disaster, or that maybe your kids ate a little too much sugar and decided to get nuts, or you had a dog who just went crazy and kind of destroyed some stuff in your room, right? You walk home, or you walk in the door and you see a room just completely filled in with junk. What do you do? So the lean tool that we're talking about today is 5S, and it stands for sort, straighten, sweep, standardize, and sustain. So let's walk through those. You first walk into the room, completely filled with junk. Then the first thing you have to do is sort. You go through and you pick up every one of the similar items and put them into a pile together. All the clothes go over here, all the books go over here, books and papers. Maybe you have some tools and utensils, they go in this pile, and then you have a pile of just rubbish that just needs to go, right? So you create all of these different piles. That is sorting. The pretty logical one, right? You got to sort things out. So the next step after that is straighten. So when you kind of have everything, really good example on this one is when you have cleaning materials. You have all your different, spray bottles and whatnot, and all the cloths that you might pair up with those. You want to straighten them out. So you get to a point where you walk into this crazy room and now you've sorted it. The next step is to straighten it so that you can really see an organized view of what you've got to work with here. And, so you get everything kind of up and on its end the way it's supposed to be. And you've straightened it out, and now you've got an ability to kind of look over everything and see where you're at. The next S is sweep. This is really cleaning, right? So a lot of people use shine instead on the analogy. So they might say sort, straighten, shine, standardize, and sustain, but you can interchange shine and sweep as much as you want here. In other words, you're just making it look pretty, right? You want to clean off the dust, you want to clean off the grime, and really look at the best item in front of you and determine its value, right? Like, is this something you want to keep? Where does it have a place? And go that route. But you can't do that until you've shined it up a little bit and made it look beautiful. And so the next one after you sweep or shine is standardize. The way that I like to explain standardizing is that when I look in my closet, all of my shirts are folded the same way. All of my socks are folded the same way. So I like to standardize the way that I put things away. And that leads to the last one, which is sustain. If I standardize everything, then I'm going to keep up that system. If I don't standardize it and I just throw it into a bucket, well, then the standard is chaos, right? And sustaining chaos is pretty easy to do, I'll give you that. But if your goal is to get rid of the chaos, then you really need to standardize the way that you put things away. So the tagline behind 5S is that everything has its place and everything is in its place. Now, I've explained the 5S tool the way that we would use it in a plant, in a manufacturing environment. We do in manufacturing, we do a lot of what's called shadow boards, where we have boards that will have the tools that you use to do that job, and that they are fit into form-fitting little shadows, right? So if you have a screwdriver, then you open up your drawer, there is a slot for the screwdrivers to go. It's shaped like a screwdriver. It may be painted that color. It's usually labeled, right? We're very specific about where we want things to go so that we know where it's at when we need the tool to do the job. I don't know about you, but in my life, I have spent far too many hours trying to search for something that I know where it should be and it wasn't put back the way it was supposed to be. Now, taking this outside of manufacturing and taking this outside of physical materials in your life, certainly in your home, I have no doubt anybody's home is going to have areas to be able to 5S and sort out to make sure that everything has its place and everything is in its place. What about that which you cannot see? What about that mental clutter? What about the clutter in our lives that does not have a physical residence in our home? How do we approach that? And I use the same process. So whenever I feel chaos in my life, I get down to 5Sing, right? And I go, what can I 5S now? So that might look like my electronic mail, like email, communication, social media accounts, all of that. All of that can be very chaotic and take up far too much of my time. So when I sit down and I start to feel overwhelmed when I look at my email account and I'm like, my goodness, there are so like there was a point in time where I had multiple different email accounts. I had started personal ones. I had started professional ones for businesses that didn't go anywhere. And it certainly had to pull it all in together and sort that out. And then, sort, straighten, sweep, standardize, and sustain. So really looking at the chaos in front of me and being able to create a process that will simplify that and streamline it so that I am not looking for the tools when I need to do the job. Contacts were a big one. If I have contacts housed in 6 different email accounts, then I spend more time looking for how to get a hold of a person. And by the time I'm ready to get a hold of them, maybe I've forgotten what I even wanted to reach out about. Or even if I remember, then certainly the impact of the thought when it occurred to me is lost because I've spent all this time trying to find the way that I need to contact them. So in this era that we live in where we have contacts in many different places, being able to pull those together, sort them out. I have a bucket over here of LinkedIn contacts, one over here of, from that are attached to this account, one over here from people I met in this phase of my life. How do I pull them all together, sort them out, and then create the process of being able to add new ones and sustain a standard process to this so that I always know when I need to get a hold of somebody, here's where I go to find their information. No matter how they came into my life, once they come into my life, I have a place to put them so that I will know where they're at. I think another one that goes along those same routes are, electronic subscriptions, newsletters, those types of things that I want to have this influence in my life. I want to kind of get information coming to me, but once it comes to me, then I want it to kind of go where I need it to go so that I can go back and find it when I need it. So setting up my folder structures in email and using that same system to organize my work files, my personal files. Most of my stuff is electronic. I really try to avoid any paper documentation anymore, just because I don't have a need for it. I can find a way to, I'll use my phone to scan it into a drive, and then I can access it anytime, any place. I don't have to be physically at my desk to find what it is that I'm looking for. So I use it to apply to that as well. Let's get a little deeper now. Let's not talk about electronic files and clutter and chaos in a room. How about from within? From boundaries and problems. Using 5S methodology helps me work through problems. So I will look at things like, wow, this is a really complicated situation. Maybe I have a problem that's bothering me. I have the chaos is not external, it's internal. And I have so many different ways I think about it, so many different ways I feel about this. a 5S project can work inside as well. So I go through the same steps. I sort out all the different ways that I feel. If you have done a workshop with me or been exposed to me talking about the cardinal rule and the four birds within our personas or within our minds, then this will make a lot of sense to you. If not, reach out to me. I'd be happy to teach you that. Um, but certainly working within, when I sort out all of the different issues and problems and opportunities, certainly brilliant creative ideas, right? We've all been inundated with a lot of ideas at once. So using 5S methodology internally really helps me to organize that so I know where it's at when I need to find it. So going through my own mind and saying these are all the things that are cluttering up my mind right now. I will sort them out by quadrant of personality. So dove, owl, peacock, and eagle. And we'll just make a quadrant box and start putting ideas into it. So yes, this is definitely tied in parallel to Stephen Covey and plenty of other quadrant thinkers out there. But once you start applying that and say, okay, this idea falls in here, this idea falls in here. Now within each one of those quadrants, now I have a ton of ideas, maybe a ton of problems, maybe even a ton of solutions. So I need to now straighten each one of those quadrants, pull all of the ideas together, pull like creative ideas, pull all of the logical problems together and all of the solutions into another bucket. So within each one of those quadrants, I'm now subdividing that and sectioning off by bucket. This is how I'm straightening these buckets of ideas and information. So sort, straighten, sweep. Now I want to clean it up. What do I really need? What do I want to keep? What do I want to get rid of? Right? And then make those purges as they happen. So I would need to clean up what this kind of area looks like. And if I'm speaking in terms of like my, let's say my eagle, right? I'm going to have a lot of high level ideas in there. I'm going to have a whole lot of really ambitious thoughts in that quadrant. So when I'm really looking at that quadrant, saying these are powerful ideas, let's be realistic with my time here and my resources. Is this one I'm going to take action on or not? And if the answer is no, I'll pare it down. And if the answer is yes, then I'm going to move it on to the next stage. So now that I've kind of cleaned out the clutter after the sort, straighten, and we've now swept, now I'm going to go to standardize. So how can I repeat this process, right? How can I make sure that every time I need it, it's there? And so being able to section things off and really dive into illustrating what each one of those problems are like, what each one of those solutions are going to be like in that quadrant. Now I can kind of standardize my thought process on this. I can standardize the way that I bring this idea from this quadrant into actual fruition. And the more in the ways that I can do that might, for me, it looks a lot like using OneNote, right? I use OneNote to organize my thoughts a lot. And the more that I can standardize that process, now I know where they're at when I need them. And that leads to the last one, which is sustain. So to sustain that, that means I need to keep doing it. Whenever I have new ideas or I feel inundated with thoughts, I have to continue trying the same tool until I find the one that suits me. Once I find one that I can rely on and that is always there when I need it to be and always works. For me, if you know me, that's going to be a fishbone diagram, right? That's how as the language that speaks to me, I love root cause analysis and it's easy for me. I've been doing it a very long time, so it's a very familiar tool to me. Find what works for you. It doesn't have to be a lean tool. It doesn't have to be something that you've learned somewhere. It could be something that you try and you're like, hey, I like this. I enjoy doing this. Try it again, try it again. And if you continue to find success from it, then you standardize that and you make it a part of a formal process of you and how you approach thought, how you approach uh, sorting chaos. You can standardize your own process. You don't need permission. You don't need to follow a specific model. If it works for you, then it works. So continue to expand on it, continue to lean on it. Lean, I like that. Continue to expand on it, continue to lean on it, and continue to grow your confidence in the ability to continue this process and repeat this process. So again, I'm going to walk through the 5S's one more time so that you can make sure you got these down. First one is sort, straighten, sweep, standardize, and sustain. So I leave you with this thought: what areas of your life would improve from a great 5S project? And take a look at it. What areas of your life have a lot of chaos and clutter? You go to it and you cannot find the tool even though you know it's there. For a lot of people, this is the kitchen, right? Or a pantry. Like, I know I have cinnamon, but I cannot find it anywhere. I've been through 15 buckets. So start with something physical, because it's very easy to take it. If you've practiced this on a physical product or a physical location, then it becomes a lot easier to transfer this in an internal project. Those are not as easy because you're dealing in hypotheticals and you don't have tangibles on these things until you get them on paper and have a system that works for you. So Michelle Hill with Slingshot Designs, offering you solutions on how to structure your life, how to organize your thoughts, how to really connect your inside and your outside. And for me, 5S is a big one of those tools. So until next time, everybody, take care of yourselves and your neighbors.